What if the biggest thing holding someone back isn't lack of talent, luck, or opportunity, but a quiet absence of self-respect? Not loud, not obvious, just subtle patterns repeated daily that slowly shape how a person is treated by the world. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't just lose self-respect overnight. They slowly trade it away, in small, invisible decisions. Let's break down the psychology behind people who struggle with self-respect and the behaviors that reveal it. First, they constantly seek approval. At the surface, it looks like they're just nice or easygoing, but underneath, there's a deeper need, validation. They want to be liked, accepted, approved of. So they adjust themselves, opinions, personality, even boundaries depending on who they're around. Psychologically, this comes from a fragile internal identity. If you don't have a strong sense of who you are, you start outsourcing that definition to others. And the more you depend on external approval, the less you trust your own voice. Second, they struggle to say no. Saying no feels uncomfortable, so instead, they say yes even when it costs them time, energy, or peace of mind. Why? Because they associate boundaries with rejection. They fear that if they push back, people will leave. But here's what happens instead. Every time they say yes against their will, they send a signal to themselves, my needs are less important, and over time, that belief becomes their reality. Third, they tolerate disrespect. This is where it gets serious. People without self-respect often allow behavior they shouldn't. Being talked over, ignored, taken for granted, even emotionally manipulated, and instead of addressing it, they justify it. Maybe they didn't mean it, it's not a big deal, I don't want drama, but psychologically, tolerance without boundaries rewires your self-image. You begin to accept less, because deep down, you believe you deserve less. Fourth, they over-apologize. Notice how some people say sorry for everything? Even when it's not their fault. They apologize for expressing opinions, for taking up space, for simply existing. This behavior often comes from a deep fear of being a burden. But the constant need to apologize reinforces a damaging belief. I'm always the problem. And that belief quietly erodes confidence over time. Now let me ask you something honestly. In your daily life, where do you feel like you're abandoning your own self-respect the most, and what are you afraid will happen if you stop? Write your answer in the comments. I read them, and I want to hear your perspective. Fifth, they avoid conflict at all costs. Conflict feels threatening, so they avoid it completely. They stay silent in situations where they should speak up. They suppress emotions. They let issues slide. But avoiding conflict doesn't eliminate it, it just internalizes it. And that internal conflict often turns into anxiety, resentment, or emotional exhaustion. Because deep down, they know they didn't stand up for themselves. Sixth, they compare themselves constantly. People without self-respect are often stuck in comparison loops. They measure their worth based on others' success, appearance, or lifestyle. And in today's world, especially with social media, that comparison is constant. But here's the psychological trap. When your self-worth depends on comparison, you will always feel behind. Because there will always be someone doing more, earning more, or achieving more. And instead of building their own identity, they keep chasing someone else's. Seventh, they don't prioritize themselves. They show up for everyone else. They support, help, listen, and give. But when it comes to their own needs, they delay, ignore, minimize. Self-care feels selfish. Rest feels like guilt. Personal goals feel optional. And over time, this creates a dangerous imbalance. Because when you consistently put yourself last, you start believing you belong there. Now here's the deeper psychological insight behind all of this. Self-respect isn't about confidence, status, or how others see you. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. It's built through small decisions. What you tolerate, what you say yes to, what you walk away from, what you believe you deserve. And if those decisions are driven by fear, fear of rejection, fear of being disliked, fear of losing people, then self-respect slowly fades, even if everything looks fine on the outside. But here's the shift most people don't realize. The moment you start respecting yourself, your environment changes. Not because people suddenly become better, but because you stop accepting what doesn't align with your worth. You speak differently. You choose differently. You carry yourself differently. And that changes everything.